Who's ready to get out of town, like now? And on a magical Disney cruise, we're going to tell you how you can do just that. That's today on the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. Hello and welcome to the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. I'm Chris Forbeck, one of the agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. We are doing this right at the start of the summer, but there are always times when you can just toss it all out and get out of town. Maybe a quick getaway or a recharge. Well, that spontaneity is great, but there are also some things you need to know, and we're going to tell you all about that today. We're going to tell you the benefits of one of these quick trips, some of the potential pitfalls, and tips to make sure your cruise is still magical, all of that coming up. And here with me, of course, is my colleague, my friend and colleague, Dreams Unlimited travel agent, Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hello, and hello to all of our friends.
I know. So nice to be here. And of course, we have an amazing producer, Jimmy Valdez. Jimmy is down in Orlando right now. He was there for the opening of Universal Epic Universe. The team did a great job covering all the different aspects of that. And he's also at Walt Disney World Resort, and they have a whole bunch of fun stuff going on there in the summer. So he has been all over. He's being Mr. Person behind the scenes today. So we're not going to see him, but he's there. Trust me.
I want to be Jimmy when I grow up because he gets to go on these like 2-month-long like mega trips and just go.
I know. Isn't it cool? Isn't it cool? But he has a kid. He doesn't get to see his kid, but he's getting back to see his kid soon. So, and of course, thank you guys for being here. We have some new stuff about the real possibility of a new port for Disney Cruise Line. There are Disney discounts. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. But first, before we get into that, let me remind you that this show, along with everything we do at the DIS Unlimited, DCL Fan, UO Fan, all of it brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. We are experts at helping you plan a magical Disney cruise, a visit to a amazing Disney theme park, your Universal adventure. Oof, Epic Universe, so awesome. It's open now. Even other cruise lines. There's no additional cost to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, none. And if you book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, we're going to give you a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on your price. And I hear people scoffing, saying nothing's for free, but this is one of these cases where you get free money to spend on board, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And of course, we're also going to give you insights about your Disney cruise ship or your Disney trip, where to stay, all Universal. We're going to tell you all about it, so you're going in as a seasoned traveler. The best way to get started, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And just by way of transparency, I always like to note, Elaine and I are Dreams Unlimited travel agents. This is our job. But we also really love Disney Shock. And we love Disney Cruise Line. And we want you to have the best time possible. Our job, both here on this podcast and as agents, to give the information so you can make the best decision for you and your family. We hope you book with Dreams. That allows us to do this podcast. And but if you don't, we still hope you have an amazing trip. So we're going to get into a bunch of news at the top, of course, like we always do. One of them certainly is a whole bunch of Disney discounts, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later because we're going to tie it into last minute trips because a lot of them are last minute. So before we do that, I wanted to have a discussion with Elaine about Disney Cruise Line may have a ship based out of the port of Galveston in Texas, and this would be a full-time. There's no official word from Disney Cruise Line yet, we should add, but we could see something with the release of the late 2026, early 2027 itineraries. The director and CEO of the Port of Galveston, Roger Rees, he was speaking to the Galveston City Council, and he said that Disney Cruise Line is going to make the Port of Galveston one of its home ports starting in 2027. Galveston has been a seasonal port for Disney Cruise Line up until this point. I was checking on the Disney Cruise Line blog, and they have where all the ships have been. It's really cool. Only the Disney Magic and Disney Wonder have visited Galveston. The Disney Magic was the first Disney ship to visit Galveston back in September 2024, and the Disney Magic has been there the most. 104 visits. The Disney Wonder hasn't been back in that port since 2022. It's been spending, of course, a lot of times out west. So it has been in Galveston 88 times. Elaine, did this? Again, we're stressing that we don't know this official. We'll probably hear about it when we get the new releases. Does this surprise you at all? Is this something that I thought it
Yes.
was kind of interesting.
It actually really does, because Galveston has had a very interesting history with Disney Cruise Line. I remember when they first announced it, we saw the imagery of like Mickey and the cowboy hat, which I don't
Right.
think you see that anymore. But it was this really big deal. And I wasn't an agent there, so I can't say, but I'm assuming it was very popular. And then most recently, it's like you said, it's seasonal, and it's usually there like December, January, and then the very start of February. And then February, then it shifts over to like New Orleans. And
Yeah.
so it's a very short segment right there. And I think even most recently, we've had a hard time filling those ships. I know that I had a friend that sailed on one recently, and he was talking about how cold it was on board because he's saying in January. And so I did find this very interesting. I know that Texas is a huge market for Disney as a whole in all of their destinations. It's one of their most major heavy markets. And people talk about how it's so convenient for them as far as a port. But if we're having trouble filling the ships with only 2 months to fill them, I don't know how that we're going to do this as like a year-round destination. Like, it will be very interesting. I mean, they must think that it's going to work, but it's also kind of a situation that we've got all these brand new Disney ships coming, and we've been sitting here questioning where are they going to put them all. So I think it's going to be interesting. So
Yeah.
it surprised me for sure.
So we, of course, as agents, we're all having an interesting discussion about this over the last couple days, and I was doing some research in it, and Royal Caribbean is putting one of its bigger ships down there. So I think they're not only looking at just Texas, but you also have all those southern states, Arizona, New Mexico, also into all the southern states that can essentially drive to
Mhm.
drive there. So they're looking at that market that doesn't necessarily want or need to go to Florida. Um, but it's and it has been a seasonal port, so I think it will be an interesting. I think Disney is figuring out where they're going to put all these ships. Right, they're all of a sudden we're going to have up to 13 ships going at once. Um, I frankly, my bet was on them having one out in California, having a
Yeah.
ship that so you could do a pair Disneyland Disney cruise, kind of similar to what you do in Florida. But it's have you been out of Galveston? I haven't been out. I haven't done a cruise out of Galveston.
I have not. I have not. But and even just to add on, I know that with the seasonality, like you said, it does help that area of the country, because I know like a lot of my Texas people, they will go and they will do the few cruises going out of San Diego as
Right.
well, just because like that's the most convenient thing for them. But even that is very limited. So I know that a lot of us were hoping that it was going to be a California port, whether it be San Diego or Los Angeles, or, some people even talked about Seattle. So I'm saying I'm very surprised that Galveston was the winner. So
So when and we'll finish up with just this quote from the head of Royal Caribbean, Jason Liberty, said when they announced they were going to be base in Galveston, he said Texas is a similar size market to Florida and has half the penetration of Florida with a similar propensity to cruise. So they're certainly betting on it, and it will be interesting to see. We expect these itineraries to come. I would guess they're Disney Cruise Line is saying they're going to do fewer releases, so we're expecting these to come sometime soon. But I know we're getting a lot of. I don't know. You're getting probably a lot of emails. I am. When are the new ones coming? Nothing yet. So
yeah,
we'll.
and at the time that we're recording this, we only have up to September of 2026 release. We don't have those last few months of 2026. I have a lot of people chomping at the bit right now for that. And remember, here's the thing: when Disney Cruise Line says 2027, that could also mean December 25th of 2027. I think we have now learned that. Like when the Treasure debuted, they told us 2027. We thought it would be like
Right.
maybe June, and then it was literally the last week of December.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, we may not even see it on the next release.
So let's talk a little bit about if somebody wants to do a quick trip, and we're at the beginning of summer as we're doing this, but you can do them any other time. Um, a quick trip, how I kind of define quick trip is anything after the pay in full date.
Mhm.
And so these are something comes up and you just say, okay, we're throwing it to the wind. We're going to go on a cruise. Um, is that feels like a fairly good definition of these, doesn't it, Elaine?
Yes, it does. And I last minute is kind of relevant to the person. I think it is very
Right.
um I think that changes based on the person's family dynamic, where they're traveling from, what they're planning, and what their planning style is. Because I have people that book 6 months before the cruise and they'll say, we know we're really last minute, but, and then I have people that literally book 2 days before the cruise. That
Right.
is last minute. So
That is really last minute. Most of those people are probably driving to the port, so it makes it a little bit easier. But just to give you an idea of when those pay in full dates are, shorter cruises, it's 90 days before, 3 months. If it's a longer, these are for non-concierge staterooms. Concierge, it's farther out. And really for concierge, it's you can start booking activities at 130 days. So I kind of say that's because that's one of the big advantages of concierge. But if you're doing a longer cruise, it's 120 days before departure for non-concierge guests. If you're concierge, it's 90 days. Well, it's also 90 and 120 days. So you can use that as kind of your as your metric. Just an important thing to understand for these last minute cruises, if it's past the pay in full date, by and large, you have to pay in full at that point in time. We can't, there's no putting down a deposit. You have to pay the entire cruise at that time that it's booked. So just be prepared. Let's talk a little bit about pros. What are the good things about doing this at last minute? And I know some people get really stressed out about planning a trip. One of the nice things is you're going. You just, you kind of gather your stuff and I feel on those kind of last minute trips, you kind of are more spontaneous. You're more living in the moment, and you can all of a sudden, this was kind of unplanned. So we're just going to have a good time, right?
yes, I 100% agree with that, because here's the thing, if I personally book my own vacation a year in advance, I'm going to hyper fixate on this trip. And I'm going to be thinking about it every single day. And I'm going to be researching the heck out of it. And I'm going to be minute by minute planning it. But if I am booking something a few weeks in advance, then I almost feel like it's kind of a it is what it is mentality. And it's going to be just a go with the flow. And we're just going to have a great time. And whatever happens, happens. And we're going to have fun because we're on vacation. I
Yeah.
almost feel like it's so much less stressful doing it like that.
And there are some right now. There are all sorts of. I think if you're looking at a Disney World trip, combining a Disney cruise with a Disney World trip, what an amazing way! There are some amazing discounts for the Walt Disney World Resort right now. You can combine those things. So a lot of the discounts, and we're going to talk about discounts in a moment. But you can really create that combo trip. So a 3-night cruise and a couple days at Walt Disney World, that can be really amazing and kind of live in the moment. It's just it's lovely. There is potential for discounts. I'm going to save that for just a minute because I want to talk about some of the cons, because sometimes people like call up and one of the big cons is people who say, oh, I want to have that 5:45 dining. If you're booking last minute, I'm just telling you, it probably isn't going to happen. There are people who have booked 19 months in advance, 18 months in advance. Those people are going to, a lot of them are filled. So if that's a make or break for you, you just got to get comfortable with the 8:15 dining. Elaine, that's my experience. Yours?
Yes, there are several of those kinds of things that you just have to, as I said, it's a whatever happens happens. You're
Correct.
talking about dining, you're talking about room availability. Do
Hmm.
not come into booking this cruise that is a month away and think that you're going to get 3 staterooms connecting for your family midship on deck 7, like it's not going to happen. You might have one forward on deck 9 and one aft on deck 2. Like it's going to be, we'll find you what we can find you. But having connecting rooms is not going to be a thing that is necessarily going to be happening. And the same with excursions. We're talking about this is after the paid in full date. The majority of the ship has already booked their excursions, their onboard cruise activities, that kind of stuff. And so there's not going to be a huge amount of availability. But there is kind of a really nice thing is that when you get in, this is what I tell my last minute people, when you get within 2 weeks of your cruise, those excursions and activities, people are dropping them like it's hot because everything seems like it opens up, because a lot of people tend to overbook. And
Right.
then once that cruise gets closer and they see that dollar amount, they start dropping things as they finalize their plans. So you can actually find a lot of excursions and activities within that 2 weeks of your cruise. So that is a really good tip.
And sometimes you may not even get to choose a stateroom at all. It may be what's called a guarantee, and we're going to talk about this in just a moment. In fact, let's transition to that. One of the kinds of staterooms that it will be often available is what's called a GTY. It's called a guaranteed type of stateroom. Essentially, Disney will say, we'll give you either a veranda. I just booked a client who is going on the Disney Magic is doing this 10-day Eastern Caribbean that goes to a bunch of islands that are different from the normal, it's not the normal Eastern Caribbean. So it goes down to Antigua and stuff like that. But all that was available is what's called a Category 7A on the Disney Magic. It's a navigator veranda. So you don't get your typical veranda. It's a portal that does provide outside space, but it's not it was all that was available in terms of veranda on that ship. And so you do have to, those guarantee rooms, and he doesn't even get to choose it's on one of the decks. You don't even choosing your specific room. So that if that's something that's incredibly important to you, you just take a step back and think. What I tell folks is get in the sense that you're going to go with the flow, as we've been talking about, and frankly, I'd rather be on a Disney ship than not on a Disney ship. So those are nice, and you do get a bit of a discount. Elaine, talk a little bit about one of the things that we get a lot of questions about are these rates, which are called IGT, OGT, VGT rates. Explain a little bit about what those are.
Yes. And before we do that, I want to make a note, like you said, about your client with the 7A. One of the things that we talk about, and this is where a lot of people get confused between the thing that Chris just talked about and what I'm going to be talking about, because they are very different, even though they just both say stateroom, guarantee. So with what Chris is talking about is that you book a specific category, like he said, 7A. You are guaranteed to get that category or higher. You are most likely going to get that category, but there is a slight chance you're going to get something higher. And I had a situation come up recently with one of my clients that they booked, I believe they booked a 6A, and it was a guarantee, but they booked that specific category on purpose because there was some very specific things about that category that they needed for the guests that were within that stateroom, as far as like accessibility and that kind of thing. And unfortunately, they were actually upgraded to a 5C. And they actually were very upset about this because the 5C that they were upgraded to was an accessible room. And which is a possibility, even in the category that you book. If you're booking a guarantee, you might get an accessible room. And because that accessible room didn't have a bathtub, it didn't meet the needs of the guests within the room. And so this was this upset them a lot. It pulled them out of their needs. They thought this was the guarantee that they were going to get this category, but because they were upgraded, they got a different one, but it didn't meet their needs. So just know that when you are booking a guarantee room, you are saying, I'm going to be okay with anything. I'm going to be okay if I get an accessible room. I'm going to be okay if I get a higher category than the one that I've booked. Just know that this is a very real possibility that could happen. So going
it's funny because
into
I never quite understand these guaranteed, because where are these guarantee rooms coming? I mean, they know what staterooms are available. It always confuses me a little bit, but they will give you that kind of as she said, you may not. It may be a better stateroom, in which case treat it as magic. But there are situations where people think they are getting a specific stateroom. It's not. You gotta go with the flow, right?
Yeah. And what I have been told by one of the cast members that I trust at Disney Cruise Line is once a category drops to 3 staterooms left, that's when they turn it over into guarantee status.
Okay.
Whether that is true across the board, that's what I have been told. And, we know that there's always kind of rooms that are hanging out there that Disney Cruise Line holds back for, emergency purposes, or if they have to move people while on the ship and that kind of thing. So I think that comes into play as well. So
IGT, VGT, OGT, these are also guaranteed, but they're guaranteed and they have restrictions. So this is, we were just talking about guaranteed. These are guaranteed with restrictions. So talk about what those are.
Yes. So IGT is inside guaranteed. OGT is ocean view guaranteed. VGT is veranda guaranteed. So that is 3 categories. You are booking one of those 3 categories. Same kind of situation. You are booking that category of an ocean view stateroom with the OGT. You are guaranteed to get an ocean view stateroom. You don't get to choose the deck, the location, the category, anything. It will be ocean view. And again, there's a slight chance you might actually be upgraded to a veranda. It does happen. So the restrictions is where all of the fun part comes into play. This is you better know you want to go on this cruise situation, because we first of all, we cannot hold the stateroom for you. So we cannot put it, on a hold like we do with the majority of the staterooms when we book these for our guests. It's there, and we have to pay it in full at the time that we make the reservation. I have had it happen.
I'm just going to pause you there for 1 second, because with this situation that I was just booking for a GTY, for a guaranteed stateroom, we can put it after these generally come out after the pay in full date. We can put it on a hold essentially for 24 hours. So we can do that. For the IGT, OGT, VGT, we cannot hold it at all. We have to pay in full at time of booking. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So that may mean that between the time that we like, if you are asking me to quote you a VGT, make sure that when I come back to you that you make a decision. You're not necessarily, you might not have that week to decide. It's kind of a we gotta go kind of a situation, because they could disappear. I have also had people that would like to book 3 VGT rooms so that they can get one for all of their family. We cannot see how many VGT rooms are left in the system, nor can the cast members at Disney Cruise Line. When I call and I say, hey, they really want 2 VGTs, they cannot tell me, because they cannot see on their end how many are left. It is truly we book one of them and really cross our fingers that there's going to be another one, because we just don't know. And it's, again, if you're booking 2 of these rooms, we cannot guarantee that you're going to be connected, that you're going to be even on the same deck or anywhere near each other on the ship. However, I do know that if you are booking 2 of these rooms, Disney Cruise Line does work very hard to attempt to get you together. I personally have booked 2 OGT rooms before for my family when we were a family of 5 and we were placed right next to each other. So thankfully that worked out. We weren't connecting, but we were right next to each other. And I have had many clients that have come back and said, yes, we were put right next to each other, or we were connecting, or whatever. So I know that they do try it, but again, it's going to come down to, this is what's available. So they're working to fill that. Okay, so going back to the restrictions, yes, we cannot hold it. You must pay in full at the time that you book. There are no changes, no name changes, no category changes, nothing. So if, your sister decides that she can't go and your mom wants to go instead, we can't flip the people out like we could on another stateroom. It is truly a no changes situation, which again is why we say consider cruise insurance, that this is something that you may want to look at, whether through Disney Cruise Line, your credit card, or a third-party option. Consider it, look at it, see if it's right for your situation. I can't legally tell you to get it, but I'm putting it on the table for you. So those are the restrictions. Was there anything else, Chris, that I'm missing? I think that's it.
No,
Oh, there's no refunds. So with a regular room that we would be booking at rack rate, once you get inside a final payment date, there's kind of a tiered system as far as when you would get everything back but not your deposit, when you would get 50% back, and 50% would be penalty, when you get to 100% penalty, all of that. None of that is in effect with these staterooms with restrictions. It is $0 refund. So even if you cancel the very next day after you book it, $0 refund. So.
And the other thing that I would note is if you want to add the Disney Cruise Line Vacation Protection Plan, you must do that at the same time it is booked. You can't do it. Normally we say you have to pay. Well, I always say you have to do it essentially before you pay in full. Well, you are paying in full, so you need to do it at the same time you are booking it, and you can't come back later and do it. People always come back and say, "Oh, I want to." We can't. And Disney Cruise Line 99.8% of the time won't change anything. So just I stress it over and over again when I'm booking these. There are no changes. So to use the phrase of the Haunted Mansion, there's no turning back now. You're going on a cruise. So just be very aware that this is that there are specific rates. Why does Disney do this? So Disney doesn't. Other cruise lines will do last minute fares, and even if you're doing it, if you've booked, you can sometimes reduce your fare. Disney generally doesn't do that. By and large, the way that they do last minute fares are these IGT, OGT, VGT rates, and they are different because you aren't choosing a stateroom. You aren't doing all the other things that you get to do if you booked earlier. They can be less expensive than if you booked early. Oftentimes, we will tell you the best pricing you're going to get on a Disney ship is to book as soon as rooms are released, as soon as itineraries are released. That is generally the case. There are occasionally these handful of rooms that are in this special rate that will be less expensive, but they have those restrictions. The challenge is they often come after you paid in full. So if you wanted to cancel, if it's enough, you can cancel your old room and get the new room if it makes sense in terms of in terms of money. The penalty is less. We can work those out, but generally you paid in full, so you're going. So it can be a little complex and people get a little confused by it, but you get a good rate, right, Elaine? You can see there are some great rates out there that are VGT, OGT, IGT rates.
Yes, and two more things I thought of before we move along is that when I say no changes, there are truly no changes because let's say you booked an IGT and you decided, a few weeks later, hey, VGC is available, let's upgrade, let's do the veranda. They will tell us no. This is truly no changes, even if you want to upgrade. So keep that in mind. Make sure if you're considering one of these rates, look at all three of the categories, because I have a lot of people that just want to pay, what is the least expensive way I can get on this cruise? And so they're booking IGT. But if you actually look at IGT, OGT, VGT, usually they're actually within a few $100s of each other. Right. So like for $400, you could have a veranda, that might make a lot of sense for you. So definitely look at all three of them if you're considering this. And the other thing that I did want to mention was, something that I forgot, apparently. Sorry.
It's all good.
I think that
We'll
was
bring
it.
it.
I think both of them. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Um,
Oh, at the time,
the other dis.
I got it. It was about the time on these. Is that
Yep.
these are not, we say these are last minute. These typically are available between 4 and 2 months before the cruise. If
Yep.
you are a few weeks within the cruise, you're not going to find these rates. The Disney Cruise Line will jack everything back up to the highest rate right before the cruise, and you are going to be paying full fare. So while other cruise lines may have these fire sales where, the week before the cruise, you're paying $200 for your stateroom, that is not going to be that way with Disney Cruise Line. They will drop all of the discounted rates, and you are going to be paying full price within that last month before the cruise. So just keep that in mind, is that these do kind of have a little sweet spot where they offer them. And they are not on every single cruise, so do not count on them being there. They are typically on the ones sailing out of Florida, whether that be Port Canaveral or Fort Lauderdale. That's typically where we see them, but they are definitely not on every single cruise. So just keep all that in mind when you're booking these.
Yeah, there's just a lot to know about them, and we'll walk you through all of it, of course. But the other discounts that are available there are Florida resident discounts, and there are military rates. Just be aware, and Dreams, we post these they come out every Monday. We post them, and I'll put a link in the show notes, which you can find on DCLFan.com. Shortened, go to dreamsunlimited.travel/DCL discounts. And that'll take you right to the page where we post those discounts. As I say, they're released every Monday. We post them on DCLFan.com.
Canadian discounts.
I'm sorry?
Canadian.
And Canadian discounts. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot Canadian discounts as well. Yeah, absolutely. These again will be guaranteed. It generally will not have a specific stateroom associated with it, generally. And they can be a specific, like a 7A, they'll say a 7A, those navigator verandas. But they can be really nice discounts. You have much experience with these?
Yes, and some things with these, again, it's kind of playing a fun little game with them, because with a lot of people ask about military rates when they book those. Military rates, again, typically, so these kind of come out before like the VGT, OGT rates. These are kind of coming out kind of again around that 4-month mark before the cruise. And with military rates specifically, those have to be a new booking. So if you are already booked on your cruise and a military rate comes out, we have to cancel your reservation and rebook under the military discounted rate. If you're not paid in full yet, obviously that's going to be a great deal for you. If you are paid in full, your agent can sit there and do the math, because it still actually may come out to be a better deal for you, even taking that hit on losing the deposit on the canceled one. Florida resident is different though. Florida resident, we can actually apply that to a booked cruise already. So if you are paid in full and your Florida resident rate comes out and it, happens to be for the same category you already booked, we can apply that and actually get you a refund. I mean, that is amazing right there. So
And that's been true with some of the Disney rates. Like they had a Disney Plus subscriber discount. We were able to do that even after you had paid in full. So that is the case. It's not the case with the IGT, OGT, VGT. Those have to be done. Those are new reservations only. Military, new reservations only. But for some of the other discounts, we can apply those even after you've booked. And we're always watching out for that to let you know. So two things on the one of the issues that we often have. Yes, they are going to check if you're a Florida resident, and the rules on whether you're in the military are very specific. We will give those to you, and I'll again put them in the show notes, which you can find on DCLFan.com. So make sure that you qualify. You're not going to sneak through. So if you don't have a Florida, something that shows that you're a Florida resident, you can't get the discount. Sorry. I wish you could. I wish I could do it for you, but you're not getting it. And the same with military. If you don't fall into the Disney criteria for what qualifies for those rates, and there generally you can't book multiple staterooms with one military person. So there are requirements around those, and we'll share those with you before you book. Anything else we need to touch on those before we move on to the discounts that are available right now, which are kind of cool?
I don't think so. Like Chris said, that list comes out every Monday. We put it on our website. We also have one of our wonderful agents, Kathy Whirling, that actually emails it to all of us so that we can actually compare that to our list and let you know, hey, there's this possibility. We could save you a little bit of money, give you that option, that kind of thing. So we're watching out for you. We got you.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the discounts that have just been released in the last couple of weeks. One is that just came out and has causing us a lot of work, which is great, saving people money. It's if you have a placeholder, they're now for specific cruises, mostly 3-night on the Wish and then some on the Disney Dream out of Fort Lauderdale. They're up in front. Instead of normally for the placeholder you get a 10% discount, they're up in that. It's placeholder discount plus you're getting a 30% discount. Are you getting a lot of interest in this, Elaine?
Yes, so it's been an interesting week for sure because usually June is kind of a lull in our booking. The big booking season has passed, but the last 2 weeks have been kind of crazy around here, and a lot of people are booking cruises, and then they just within the last week kind of put out 3 different discounts for targeted people, one of them being this placeholder. And so, I mean, when you're talking about what a placeholder is already a really good deal because you're getting 10% off. But the fact that they're taking the placeholder and bumping it up to 30%, I mean, that is huge. And these are off of category, real staterooms. Like you are picking your stateroom and getting 30%. That is huge. I personally have not seen that happen in the 9 years that I've been with Dreams, but that is kind of wild. And the fact that it's I do want to note because I'm in a few travel agent groups on Facebook, and several of them were kind of getting this wrong. It's not 10% plus 30%. You're not stacking this discount. It's just upgrading and bumping up the discount. So make sure that whoever you're talking to book your cruise realizes the rules of the actual discount. So it is but it is 2 ships, and it is very specific sailings. It's not off of, Europe next summer or anything like that. And these are as far as timing that you're talking about, this is in August and September. We are recording this the first week of June. So you're talking about this cruise is 2 to 3 months away, which I think is still a good time as far as booking a cruise. I think 2 to 3 months is a really good time because you pretty much kind of know your schedule at that point. They've released school calendars already for next year. So you're not working around some kind of surprise as far as they've moved spring break week or anything like that. You kind of know what's going on. I am at a point in my life that I cannot book a vacation a year in advance because I just don't know what my situation is going to be. But 2 to 3 months, I kind of know where I'm going to be. I know my schedule, know my kid's schedule. I know how much money I have to spend. I think it's a really good deal if you have a placeholder that you've been holding on to.
And we actually got a note from Lucille asking for us to explain placeholders, and so we'll do it in more detail another point. But essentially, if you don't know what a placeholder is, I think it's I always get them when I'm on board. While you're on board, you can put $250 down, and you book an open-ended reservation. You can use it anytime in the next 24 months. From the time it's booked, you have 2 years to use that reservation, and you can book it on most Disney Cruise Line ships. Not Thanksgiving week, not Christmas, not New Year's, and not spring break. So those are essentially the blackout dates. But all the rest of the time, pretty much they're open and available. Normally, you get 10% off the posted price. Right now, for those targeted cruises, you get 30% off. That's not bad. And it's a great way to save on your Disney cruise. You can still work with Dreams Unlimited Travel when you book this online. It will actually ask you if you want to work with the same travel agent, and so you just say yes. We will get notified. I always ask my folks, please send me that anyway, just in case, because sometimes we all love Disney technology. It always works perfectly, right? So
Yeah.
just in case it doesn't work perfectly, send us a confirmation that you get to make sure, and also check in with us afterwards, because sometimes it doesn't like fully get processed. Something has happened. So just check and make sure that that gets done. And but it's a great way to save on your Disney. You can book up to 2. They would, if you want to bring friends or family on that, use that second one. It has to be on the same itinerary. You can't book one to use on this week and another that you'll use on another week. It doesn't work that way. Sorry, the Disney wording on this is horrible, but it's 2 on the same itinerary. So there's a little primer on placeholders. So that's a big one. There are also great Disney Visa discounts if you have a Disney Visa, Disney Rewards Visa card. They have discounts similar, Disney Wish, Disney Dream, and I will put in the show notes. I will put the DCL fan stories so you can see exactly which dates those are available and see if they work for you. Or you can just reach out to your Dreams Unlimited travel agent. We're happy to help you on those. So
Yeah.
really interesting.
The,
Yeah, go ahead, Elaine.
really, the wording when these come out, I know that every single person was confused. I know everybody in our agency was confused. All of my clients were confused as far as these Disney Visa and DVC discounts that came out last
I
week.
forgot the DVC one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I had to have another agent explain it to me over the phone because I was so confused. So, and it's like, if I'm confused, I know that the rest of the world is confused as well. So they are kind of a little confusing. So let us just walk you through it. So,
yeah. I just want to go through some tips if you're going to do one of these more last minute cruises. And we've mentioned it, I think, 35 times, but flexibility is the key. There are going to be a lot of variables that come through here. You kind of have to go with the flow. You're not, if you want all those options about dining times, about which stateroom you only stay in these staterooms, book early. These are, you're going to just kind of like, okay, we're going on a cruise, and you're going to have a good time. Also, be prepared to move quickly. What else do you tell folks, Elaine, about these? If they want to do this, how do you try and get them ready?
it's kind of the things that I talked about at the top of the show as far as quote unquote cons and that kind of thing. I tell somebody, if you are that hyperfixation planner, that everything must be a very specific certain way or your entire vacation is going to be ruined, this is not for you. Yeah. If you can let it go, as Elsa says, and just let what happens and be able to just live in the moment and have a great time, you are going to have a great time. I had a friend that recently just booked a cruise on Thursday and they left on Saturday. And wow. Thankfully, they were Florida residents. So they drove to the port, but they said it was the best cruise of their life. It was just a weekend cruise, and they said it was the best cruise of their life because they just turned their phones off and just didn't think about anything and just spent time together as a family. And whatever happened, happened. And I think sometimes that's what we need. I think we are in a world where we have so much information available to us at our fingertips that there is no pixie dust. There is no magical moments. There is no surprise. There is none of that. And having this last minute cruise can kind of get you a little bit of that dopamine hit of just whatever happens, happens.
And I think it's really, it is a mindset, and that's important to go in knowing that, but it's also a real opportunity to do just as you say, let it go with the flow. You are going to have a good time if you let it go and you're able to get into that mindset. It's going to be amazing, and it is. I try and do these kinds of trips, whether to Disney World or Universal or a Disney cruise, occasionally, because it reminds me, okay, we need to occasionally be in this space where we just relax and enjoy. And so So they're a phenomenal experience. So as we say, a lot of information out there. We hope we haven't confused you too much. We're going to round it all up in the show notes on dclfan.com, so you can find it all nice and easy. But it's a great opportunity to have a really good time. So with that, we would, as I always mention, we'd love for you to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. Literally, it helps pay for what we do here. And I'll tell you, I was a Dreams client before I was a Dreams agent, so I understand the value of what we do. The best place to get started, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Select Disney Cruise on the first page. The second page will ask you for your cruise date. And at the very top of the second page, there's a pull-down menu of all the Dreams agents. You can select one. They're all awesome, or you don't have to. So Elaine, before, as you tell them how they can reach you, also, what do you hope folks take away about this topic? If you could put one thing in their brains, what would you tell them?
The biggest thing, I guess, is that don't think that you can't go on a vacation last minute. You can. You truly can. There are great opportunities out there. There's the potential to save a lot of money. So don't be scared of booking one last minute, because you are on Disney Cruise Line. Like, we know Disney Cruise Line is amazing. And so we know it's going to have a great time. So if you can just put that mindset that you are going to have a great time, whatever happens, happens. It's going to be fantastic. And I know the next question is going to ask me how they can reach you, so I'll just cut to the chase. My email is Elaine, Elaine, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. However, if you are wanting to get a quote for the cruise, just skip emailing me. Just go straight to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, hit the get a quote button. You can choose my name, or like Chris said, you can leave it blank, and whoever is next available will help you. But that is going to be the quickest way to get a quote, rather than emailing me, because I get hundreds of emails a day. And so it is what it is. So yep. That is it.
And if you want to reach me, Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Yes, there's a Chris at Dreams Unlimited. So if you want to reach me, Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. I'm also on social media. Yensid Travel on most social media platforms. Yensid is the wizard. It's your little Disney trivia. Yensid is the wizard from Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia. It's also Disney spelled backwards. There you go. Thank you so much for joining us. And a special thanks to our producer, Jimmy Valdez. As always, Jimmy, go out and do good work. You're doing great work. Fun watching you down at Disney. So depending on where you're watching us, hearing this, whatever you like, please subscribe, give us a review. It really does help us. Go on iTunes and give us a review. We haven't had reviews in a while. So go in there, and if you can review us, if there's a way I can reach out to you, I'll send you a personal note. And if you have topics for us, you can leave those on the YouTube comments. We also have a DCL fan Facebook page where there are a bunch of people discussing Disney Cruise Line. Or you can just send Elaine or me an email, and we will get back to you. That's how we included the placeholder stuff. So that's how we know what you want to hear. With that, go book a last minute trip. Let's go. Okay, my bags are packed. I'm ready to go. We'll see you real soon.
Well, yeah.